Okay, hello, this is Fishing Stories at SALTY101.com. And this is just a series of stories that I have about fishing over the years. Some are funny, some are crazy. And there's only about 6 or 7 of them, but I have a playlist that this video is in. You can play the playlist and hear them all. Maybe as you drive toward your fishing spot for the weekend or something. Some people like the stories. One person said they would like to hear it in the car or something. So just doing it for people that want to hear the audio. There's no reason to look at me telling the story. I'm not going to do anything special here with the video. So as long as you're listening, you'll get the gist. Okay, so this one is called Fishing Stories, First Day of Trout Season, a Near Catastrophe. I have a picture of McConnell's Mill trout stream in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. And this is where my uncle, my other uncle, and my brother and myself, we all went fishing in this big Winnebago. My uncle had a really cool camper. And we used to go camping and hunting trips like that around Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up. Okay, so I'll just read it. This fishing story could also be entitled, Nephew Loses Uncle's Brand New Rod, or My Brother Ruins Our First Day of Trout Fishing. I like the second one. My brother and I were really excited about getting the chance to go fishing on the first day of trout season allowed that year. I was 12 and he was 8 years old. I had only been trout fishing once before at a lake, so I didn't know what this stream fishing was all about. I just knew we were about to go and do the coolest thing ever, as we were going to ride in a massive 30-foot Winnebago mobile home and sleep there for a couple of nights as we fished during the daylight hours. My Uncle Jim had been a real support for my mother as we grew up because he took me and my brother hunting and fishing as we grew up. This gave my mother at least a dozen days a year where we were away from home and not causing any trouble. My mom's brother, Uncle Mike, would also be going. He was about 19 years old and he was a good fisherman already. I remember walking up to the Winnebago and my Uncle Jim showing us all that we had to know about our mobile home for the weekend. There was a sink, stove, oven, toilet, shower, and lots of places to sit around or sleep. My brother and I had the coolest place to sleep. It was up above the cab. We were actually looking out the front window and could see all the traffic from high up in the camper as we drove. We had pillows up there and a sleeping bag for each of us. The ride was more than a couple of hours, but we didn't mind at all. The longer the better, we thought. We were going to McConnell's Mill in Slippery Rock, PA, Pennsylvania. There was a stream right there that was stocked with trout, and it was one of the most picturesque places to go trout fishing in the state, I'm pretty sure. I'll add a photo here from Google Maps. Yeah, so I took some photos and added them to the article. First day of trout season is always cold and usually cold enough to snow in western Pennsylvania. On this morning, it was frigid with temperatures hovering around 22 degrees Fahrenheit. It was early April and we'd had a rough winter that still wasn't gone yet. I remember we found a place to park the camper in a camping area and grilled up some hot dogs with mustard and ketchup. That hit the spot. Then it was already time for bed. There were little lights all over inside the camper. It was fun trying to flip all the switches and see what they did. We fell asleep content and happy not to have to brush our teeth or take a shower like we had to at home. We really loved camping with my uncle. We woke up early, around 5 a.m. I think the horn was supposed to go off at 6 a.m., signaling the start of trout season in Pennsylvania. We ate some pancakes with slices of apple my uncle cut with his old penknife. He literally cut everything with that knife and never washed it. So it was always a bit of a risk to eat something he cut with it. But we ate apples, carved sticks with it, cleaned our shoes of mud with it, and gutted fish with that knife. It was good for everything, and Uncle Jim didn't know the word minimalist yet, but that's exactly what he was. The 4 of us trudged out into the night and followed my Uncle Mike, who had a weak flashlight. We walked down a path that led to the stream in McConnell's Mill. They figured we'd fish right there since it was convenient and there was a small dam there, which the trout probably liked. The snow and ice crunched beneath our shoes as we walked for about 20 minutes to reach our fishing spot. There were already about a dozen other anglers there waiting to be among the first to throw a line in and catch the first trout of the year. We spread out along an area just downstream from the dam. My brother and I stuck together, and my Uncle Mike was on my right, about 20 feet away, and my Uncle Jim was even further upstream. He may have been above the dam. The wind was cold, and yet we were protected somewhat by the mill and the trees. The stream was, of course, in a gully, and the surrounding hills blocked much of the wind. Still, if it came down the same way as the water did, it gave us a chill. There was about 3 inches of snow on the ground, and it was obvious that some rain had already fallen as well. Things were slippery, but all we were doing was standing still, so we didn't think there was anything to be that cautious about. The water was ripping fast down the stream like rapids. It was too shallow to take a raft down, but some areas had deep spots, deep holes. The horn went off, and we all threw our lines in at once. To my brother's and my credit, we didn't foul our lines by crossing them like some other anglers downstream did immediately. I remember having a couple of bites and not catching any trout initially. I remember my brother not being happy with where he was fishing, so he kept wanting to move. My uncles told him stay put and would move in a bit. They were already catching fish, and it was encouraging to at least see someone we knew putting fish on a stringer. I had a good bite, and I was ready to set the hook when my brother slipped and was suddenly off balance and tiptoeing across icy, snow-covered rocks much too fast to be safe about it. He was just trying to regain his balance, right? He was actually completely out of control and just running across rocks to keep from falling in. Eventually, he hit a nice ice-covered rock that launched him right into the ice-cold stream. I saw him go in. It was all so sudden that I couldn't really believe what was happening. I watched as he floated downstream fast, too cold and breathless to even scream. Luckily, my Uncle Mike saw it, and my Uncle Jim was also running toward him in no time at all. My brother had hit a rock that stopped him briefly, but then he kept going. Everyone was screaming to him to grab a rock, but there was no way to do so. The rocks were very round and slippery. There was nothing to grab onto. Finally, someone downstream held out their fishing pole, and my brother grabbed hold of it and pulled the top half off it, floating further down the stream. I could see total panic and helplessness in his eyes now. I wasn't sure if he was going to die or what. Finally, my uncle was able to reach out to him and offer him the thick end of his fishing rod, and my brother grabbed it and was pulled in toward the bank. I remember them pulling him out. He was blue, he was so cold. My uncles immediately stripped him down naked and covered him in their own jackets. He was shivering uncontrollably. For some reason, they thought he'd be fine like that, so they went back to fishing. After a couple of minutes, they realized he needed to be warmed by the heater of the camper, so my Uncle Jim walked him back to the camper and warmed him up. We learned later that my brother had sent my uncle's brand new rod sailing through the air as he was falling, and it went right into the deep spot of the stream. My uncle was so angry at my brother because he hadn't even had a chance to use the rod and reel yet, and it was already lost. We fished for a while after that, but my brother and Uncle Jim stayed in the camper because my brother wasn't doing so well. I don't remember catching any trout at all. I just remember that my brother damn near died in a very cold stream that morning. So that's the end of the story. These are all true stories. Yeah, that was so that one was, I guess that one was more scary than when than the other story about I almost killed my girlfriend while wade fishing. You have to listen to that one or else read the article, read the story. I have more fishing stories. It'll be in this playlist and also at my website. I'll put links in the description. Some of the other stories are how my uncle caught a 40-pound snook on 2-pound test line, how I almost killed my girlfriend, that time I accidentally set fire to my foot, Dave's first fishing trip ever, another one, I take my little brother fishing and nearly kill him, and another one, spearfishing for giant trevally bait. This was on Maui Island. Okay, so that's it. Go to the next video or see the rest of the stories at the website, SALTY101.com. All right, thank you. Cheers.